Hi friends, I have a fairly simple idea that I don't hear too many players use, but I think it can sound quite beautiful when used in the right context, and thought I'd share it with you today. It's something I call sustained sus chords. The name is not important, just the sound and the concept is. I'm assuming most people know what sus chords are. I'm not going to go into that in great detail. I'm sure there's tons of stuff on YouTube about it. But in their typical fashion, a sus chord or a suspended chord, sus being short for suspended, is you suspend the chord's quality by removing the third, which gives it its quality, major or minor, typically, and replace it with either the fourth in the case of a sus4 or the second in the case of a sus2. So we're going to talk about sus4s today on dominant chords. The difference being is that we're going to contain both the suspended, the fourth, and the third in the same voicing. So rather than having a typical, G sus like this that then goes to G7, we're going to move that suspended and keep the third with it. Essentially get this. So I have G, the root, F the seventh, B the third, and C the fourth on top. And when the notes are spread out a little bit or arpeggiated a bit, it can sound quite interesting. So that's the general concept, but let's put it in context so you can hear kind of how I'm talking about using it. A lot of times I would use this idea over any 5 chord. So a lot of times if I'm trying to work out a concept, I use the tune Bluesette, which I'll overlay here so you can see the chart if you don't know it, because it has a bunch of 2-5-1s or 2-5s and 2-5-1s in different keys. So you can sort of, play your idea across all these different key changes. So I'm going to play through it using this idea, and you can get a sense of how it sounds. Here's Bluesette. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. That's an example. So I typically wouldn't use this kind of pattern or voicing on all the 2-5s in the tune, but it's a good example to practice with and try. So let's break it down a little bit. I find this works best when you have the fourth, the suspension, and the third right next to each other in a minor second, in the case of G that we just had earlier. If they're spread out, like for example, the suspension was underneath and the third is on top, I don't think that is a good sound. It sounds confusing. But when we play it with this arpeggiated approach and using that sustained fourth, it can be quite effective. So what I've done is go through a couple of different voicings that I'll share with you that you can try with all kinds of different tunes. And that is having the suspension on top, the third, in this case we're going to use D as an example. So this is G, the fourth, the F sharp is the third, C is the seventh, and D is the root. So it's a little awkward to play, but there's a voicing. Now this same voicing can be applied on the next set of strings below by moving that G up to here and we get this. So these are two of the exact same voicings, just in two different places on the neck. Because sometimes you're gonna want a voicing up high or down low or wherever. So there's two of the same voicings. If we continued that idea, or I should say on this particular one, we could take that root, the D, and move it to the first string, but leave all the other notes there. And we get this voicing, which is pretty cool sounding. Now that can also be played in one other position if we move up to the high D here. It's a little harder to play because the stretch is a little bit more, but there's the same sound. So now we've got 4 voicings, or I should say 2 voicings, but 2 different places to play each one. So now we can use that idea to plug in all these different 5 chords. So that's kind of the general gist of the idea. So it can be very cool if you're playing more melodically rather than chunking chords, right? You're playing a more spacious type of comping. It can sound quite nice. So I'll play it one more time in the upper register so you can hear a different flavor of it. So that's the general idea. One thing that's very cool about this too is when we do have an actual 2-5-1, so moving from the 5 chord to the 1 chord, like let's pick the key of E flat, like F minor 9 to this B flat, suspended. 3 of these 4 notes are common between the sustained sus chord and the 1 chord, only the A flat moving to G. So it has some really nice voice leading. So that's true with any resolution in any key. So again, I don't hear people using this idea too much. I think it can sound quite beautiful and very effective in some different contexts. So hope you find some uses for it. Good luck.